Hello everyone. Today I'm Tanya going to elaborate a topic that is ER model. So we're going to cover about entity, attribute, its type, and in the end we'll discuss about a ER diagram example. So now moving towards our topic. So firstly, what is ER diagram? So we know ER diagram is used for logical representation. It is a design method which works on conceptual level based on perception of real world. The following diagram is an example of ER diagram which contains the detail of student as well as the courses in which they have been enrolled. So now moving towards the basic terminologies used in ER model. So the first one is entities. So entity is anything that have an independent existence. Like in the previous example, student and course are two separate entities. Now moving towards the attribute. Attribute simply describes the characteristics of the entity like student name, her date of birth, address, etc. Now, what is a relationship? So, a relationship is associations between entities. Now, we represent entity using a rectangular box, attribute using an oval shape, and relationship using a rhombus shape. Now, moving towards entity set. So, what is an entity set? A collection of similar entities is termed as entity set. For example, all employees. Now, let's just elaborate about attribute in more detail. So, attribute describes the property of entity and relationship. So, the set of possible values for an attribute is called as domain of the attribute. So there are various types of attribute. Some of them are simple attribute. The second one is composite attribute. The third one is single valued. The fourth one is multi-valued, and the last one is derived. So what is a simple attribute? A simple attribute is an attribute that cannot be divided into simpler component. Means it is atomic and cannot be separated further. So now moving towards composite attribute. So composite attribute can be split, can be subdivided into further components. For example, if I'm talking about my name, so my name can be further divided as my first name, my middle name, and my last name. Now moving towards the single valued. Single valued attributes are those attributes which can take only a single value. For example, taking for example age of the employee, so it uh, can't have value more can't have more than one value. Now moving towards the multi-valued. So multi-valued attributes are such kind of attributes which can have multiple values. For example, if I'm talking about my phone number, so I can have more than one phone number, so that is termed to be multi-valued attribute. Now the last one is the derived attribute. So derived attribute is some kind of attribute then that can be calculated based on other attributes. For example, if I'm giving my date of birth, then my age would be calculated or would be derived automatically. So that type of attribute may be termed as derived attribute. So it is an example or representation how we show ER diagram. Here we have entity, first entity, its corresponding attributes, second entity and its corresponding attributes. And both of these entities are interrelated using a relationship. So these are the notation used for different kinds of attribute. So we simply represent our simple attribute using a oval shape for attribute or key attribute. We just underlined it. For multi-valued attribute, we uses two concentrated oval shapes. For derived attribute, we use a dotted oval. And for the composite attribute, we can further divide it into further attributes. So that's all for today.